Have you ever considered being a broker for limo companies instead of actually buying the vehicles, sedans, SUVs, stretch limos, party buses? It's expensive to purchase them, to maintain them, to insure them. Have you ever just considered being a marketing and sales company and farming all of the work out? Very much like an Uber or a Lyft or a Booking.com, where you don't own any real estate or metal, but you do get the client and then somebody else performs the work, a broker. Many of you watching this likely have. And if you've ever thought about doing this, are wondering, is it viable? This video is for you. And by the end of the video, I'm going to let you know what sort of vehicles I recommend doing this for. What gave me the idea to do this topic was a call I had with now a client who started with us probably about a month ago, but our original call was 5 or 6 weeks ago. And so he calls me and he said, Mark, I've been watching a lot of your videos. I already watched the program and pricing video you sent us, which, by the way, it's not available on YouTube. You have to request it, but I've already watched that and I want to work with Limo Marketer and I want to start out with 50 locations. And so when he said this, I pretty much immediately assumed that he is not going to become a client because it's just a little crazy to start with 50 locations. And since he had already seen a video about kind of how we work, I kind of assumed he knew what he would have to spend to do 50 different locations. So whenever I get a call like this, which is once, a few times a year, I just assume the person has no idea what they're talking about, and it's likely not going to make for a good client. We'll never actually work together. But it ended up that he did eventually sign up. When we got to talking, and I said, is there a reason you don't want to just start with one location? And he said, well, we've got affiliates nationwide. And he said at the time they were spending $1,000 a day on Google Ads. So the longer I spoke with him, the more I thought, okay, this guy, while I do think his idea is not a good one, and I think he's wrong about wanting to do that many locations, the more I spoke with him, the more I realized, okay, this guy has been in business a while, and I think he might just be a little confused, especially because in the video we send everyone who inquires about our services, it says pretty much right away, we don't work with brokers. Having this policy for several years now, I've tried to work with brokers so many different times, to broker black car, to broker stretch limos, party buses, and it never ends up working out long term. Eventually, I convinced him to start with only one location, and let's have that location be the location he has vehicles in. So he eventually started with that location and he's doing well. But it gave me this idea for the video. For a couple points I wanted to make, of course, I want to get into what vehicles I would recommend a broker and what vehicles I would not. But also, just as a side note here, and I've made this mistake myself before with trying to go too broad. And in business, when you look at most of the really large companies, you almost never see them pursuing a large market. They always start in a very small niche market and then they grow from there. Once they've completely saturated and dominated that small niche market, growing from there. Facebook did this, right? They started just at Harvard and then it went to all colleges and now it's what it is today, a massive business. And so my first little side note on this video is I never recommend biting off than you can chew. It's trite, but it's very true. Several years ago, I tried to start a website and rank a website nationwide. Poured a lot of money into it. Eventually was ranking in dozens of markets, but they were all very small markets with very few operators in them. So we were getting lots of leads, but unfortunately, in the markets we were getting leads in, there was only one company that could even really service most of the leads in most of the markets. And therefore, they're like, hey, we're the only guys in town, so why would we pay for these leads? So I learned a hard lesson there. And if I had to do it again, I would have started in one market and then monetized it, right? Started selling the leads and then started adding additional markets. And so that's really what I told this gentleman. I said, hey, but let's get it working in the market you're in. And then we can potentially talk about doing other markets. Now, I said in the video, I don't work with brokers on our program and packages and pricing overview video. And here's why, and it's pretty simple. And many of you probably already know the reason for this. Okay, so let's go through some different vehicle types and why they wouldn't work to broker them. Well, sedans and SUVs. Okay, black car companies. The way they really make money if their client acquisition strategy is online marketing is through repeat business, and they only can make money through repeat business. My clients, especially the new ones with new campaigns, generally are going to lose money month, maybe even the first 2 to 3 months. And this is something most online marketing agencies won't tell you. They always want to paint this crazy picture about the insane results you're going to get with them. And don't get me wrong, some of our clients start out with a bang and they're profitable right away, but most of them are not. And most of them, I would say, are likely losing money their first month. Now, I say losing money in that if they spend $3,000 and they make $3,000, they've lost money. While they paid for their advertising, there's so many other expenses. This isn't software you're selling, right? Where, the marginal cost for one more unit is nothing. It's got a cost of goods sold, which is labor, fuel, lots of different things. If your main acquisition strategy is online marketing, it might cost you $100 to $150 to acquire a client. The cost to acquire a client is a really easy number to come up with if you're tracking. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a client who spends $3,000 total. Now I'm including ad spend plus the marketing agency fee. And let's say in that month, he gets 30 new clients. Well, that's easy to do the math. It's $100 to acquire that client. And so if it's $100 to acquire that client and the job they book, if their average ticket, let's say out of those 30 jobs, let's say they book a total of $9,000, right? So an average of $300 per job, probably not a black car company. Let's do $6,000, okay? Now they're making $200 on average per job, and just to acquire that client costs $100. And so that other $100 is easily spent on all of the overhead plus the fuel, the cost of goods sold, right? The expense to deliver that ride, which there's lots of them. And so even if they double their money, even if they spend a total of $3,000 and make $6,000, they're still probably losing money because of all the overhead, all of the fees. There's a lot of expenses in this industry. And so why does brokering it not work? Well, if it costs $100 to acquire a client, and let's say your $200 ride, let's say you farm it out to an affiliate and they do it for $140. Okay, so you've lost $40. But here's the thinking behind it, which just never works out, is, okay, the idea is customer 1 in 5, 1 in 10 customers uses us over and over again. And over time, those repeat rides are going to make it make sense. The problem with this is, if it's somebody else doing the ride, well, there's a chance that they're going to acquire that client, which you hope not. You hope you can trust your affiliates, but they're the ones doing the ride. And unfortunately, many affiliates might be a tad unscrupulous and they might hand that person their card. So the way to make money is in the repeat clients, but because you're brokering all of the work, you might not be getting as many repeat clients. Now, I have clients that do farm out a ton of work, but they still own a few vehicles. And so I'm not saying it's not possible to broker black car. What I'm saying is it's not easy because the money is made in getting repeat clients, which is harder when you're not the one actually delivering the service. Okay, so what about stretch limos and party buses? Because these vehicles, the ticket price is much higher, right? So the average ticket for party bus rentals, let's say for, Mark's party bus company, is $600 or $700, right? So if you do 100 different jobs, your average is $600 or $700 a job. You can farm that out and maybe you just pay that affiliate. If it's a $600 job, you take a 30% cut. So you're paying that affiliate, let's say $390, $400. So you're making $200. The cost per lead is about the same, surprisingly. You would think it would be more because the average ticket for those jobs could be 2 or 3 times times, maybe even more than Black Car. Here's why. There's not as much repeat clientele. And that's why the leads don't cost more. Also, people that want to book a stretch limo or party bus, again, this is if you want to broker and your client acquisition strategy is online marketing. If you get 100 leads that month, I guarantee you 25 to 30% of those leads will be looking for the same dates, maybe even more, maybe 50, 60%. So what does that mean? Well, that means, let's say every other lead you can't even quote because the affiliate you use is booked on Saturday night, right? They want rides on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They might be booked. And even if they're not booked on the weekends and you book them, you're still going to get, you would really need affiliates in your area that all suck at online marketing, that are all not busy on Friday, Saturday night. Because even if you have the same price per lead, right? And let's say it takes, let's say the leads are 25 each and it takes 4 leads for a sale. So you're spending $100 to acquire a customer, but every other lead you can't even quote. That just doubled your client acquisition cost, right? Now it went to $200. So stretch limos and party buses, in my experience, are kind of out. Again, if you want to use online marketing as your main client acquisition strategy. So, and this is kind of what I promised you guys at the beginning of the video. So what do I think can still work today? Might not be 5 years, 10 years from now. I still think the larger buses can work. And here's why. It has the best of both worlds. It's got the 7-day-a-week potential, right? Because schools use them. Lots of corporate businesses use them. So it's got that, but it's also got the large ticket price, right? The average ticket price is much higher. And this is why in that industry, you see it dominated online marketing wise by companies like CharterUp, GoGo Charters. Just search right now. Search bus rental, charter bus rental in any market in the US. You're going to see these companies popping up. They're running ads. Their SEO is on point, and they're just brokers. And I still actually think it can work. You just have to have the relationships, and you have to be really good at online marketing, or work obviously with an agency that's good at online marketing. I still think that can work, but of course it's still not at the end of the day as ideal because of the same thing with Black Car, in that the repeat clients are going to be harder to get because you will deal with some affiliates might, swoop up on maybe not every client, but maybe the best potential ones that could lead to a potential contract. You could lose out on those. Now, the way to protect yourself from that happening, and I'm sure that's what these companies do, is these companies give their partners, the companies they farm out to, a lot of work. And so these guys are like, I don't want to risk losing 40% of my work because I got a little greedy. And so if you can get into the position where you're giving, like Uber and Lyft, how much of the work does Uber and Lyft give their drivers? Now, you can make the argument, well, if they're an Uber driver, they're getting 100% of their work from Uber. If they're a Lyft driver, same thing. Fortunately, there's Uber and Lyft, right? So if, they can use both, but you have tremendous leverage when you are the one being the rainmaker that other people depend on for their business. And so this is getting to be a long video, guys, but I do believe buses can still work and that you can still make money brokering them. I believe all of the other things can be brokered, but if online marketing is your only acquisition strategy, it's very difficult. And that's why we say we don't work with brokers, even though I know it's possible, but for those reasons, it's not optimal. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you on next week's video.